The mimer continues, and it says, Ois Gimel. However, there's a second level, which is described as Sovev, or surrounding all stages of awareness, or all worlds, Sovev called Almin. And that means that no individual aspect has any identity. Everything is equal within it, that it is equal in the equalizer. And this draws down from a level that is called mקיף, surrounding, that's ordinarily hidden, and is not evident and internalized within the person's intellect or within their character, because no thought can grasp it. Because this level that comes from Atzmus of Ein Sof, that is higher than what can be described as a world or an individual entity. I am Hashem, I do not change. There's nothing comparable to him, like a drop in the ocean, and there's no capacity within a human being who is simply a creation of from nothing into something, to understand, to tolerate such an intense level of revelation that comes from this level of godliness without the person being completely subsumed. Nevertheless, we say that even though you don't see it, your mazel sees it. And this was the event by Daniel, that the people around him didn't know what it was, but they were so shaken by it, and therefore they even fell to the ground. And the Gemara says that they didn't see it. Why then were they so shaken? Because their mazel saw it. That is, what does it mean, mazel? So mazel, from the word for trickle down, as is described in the Parshas Ba, like yizal, the water flow down, which is an expression, as in a connection. And the mazel is what drew down this degree of connection that led to their collapse, even though they were not conscious of what it was that they were so shaken by. And this is the neshama that's not even invested within the body, because not the entirety of the neshama is invested within our human experience, only some expression thereof. And the entire atzmus of the neshama is surrounded from above. And this is called the level of mazel. That comes from a characteristic, an expression of the neshama down into the body. So the part of the neshama that is outside of the body is what we call the mazel, and it has an impact on the aspect of the neshama as is invested in the body. And this is what it means when it says that his mazel sees it, that he had this great impact on these people surrounding Daniel. Now, Daniel himself, who saw what happened, he was able to grasp it and comprehend it, and therefore it did not have such a frightening impact upon him. But the people who were with him, since they did not have this capacity to tolerate it, it was only their mazel, was something higher than their grasp, because this grasp is from a level of the expression of the soul within the body, the way it is invested within the mind, and the moich of their seichel, that was too small to be able to tolerate this expression, and that's why this great trembling fell upon them. And so too it is in the revelation of the Ein Sof in the level of mazel, which is the neshama that is higher than it is invested in the body, because there is no such revelation that can be grasped within the intellect, and therefore this overwhelming expression of godliness that they could not absorb resulted in this great shaking. And regarding this impact that is beyond seichel, it's only the mazel. We say if there is no chachma, there can't be yirah. Like we say, that Hashem instructed him to do all these chukim, to fear Hashem. It should be this revelation of this level of mazel that it falls upon them, this great trembling, through engaging in Torah, because Torah comes from chachma, and Havaya is in the level of chachma, the infinite light of Hashem that radiates within chachma, that willingness to say what that I do not know, which all learning begins with that bittul, that the Ein Sof should reside within it only in that which is batal to it, and that's through Torah, and that's the wisdom of Hashem, that Hashem and his wisdom are all one. He is the knower and the knowledge. And the primary revelation that is above in the source of Torah, which is the quality called chachma, is this level called mazel, that again expresses and trickles down this hashpah to express itself in the Torah before us that is invested within the Gashmis. Now, there are three items that are all knotted together: the Yidden and Torah and Hashem. And the Yidden are called the strength of Torah, like it says in the Zohar, they lifted up their heads, because the 600,000 letters of Torah are the source of the 600,000 neshamas of the Jewish people, each letter being a source of a different neshama. And the engagement in Torah here in this world reaches to and stimulates the source of the neshama above. That's that mazel level, the level of your identity that is not restricted and contained within this physical world. to draw down this revelation of the Yireh and Sovev that is invested within the Chachma, the source of Torah, which is the foundation of the neshama, in this loftiest of levels, that it should be drawn down, this revelation in a character called Mazel, the source of the neshama from above, that it should fall down upon him, that he has this great trembling because of the revelation of the Yireh and Sovev in this level called Mazel. As we explained further, based on what it says in Parshas Beshalach, that the people feared Hashem and they believed in Hashem, that there's two terms of Hashem, like in the Yud Gimel Midos, the 13 expressions of God's compassion. It says Hashem, Hashem, but it's interrupted with the time of the trop, like a comma between them, separating out. That is the level of Havaya that sustains Ishtalshalis, from whence is drawn down the Yireh, and the Yireh through the revelation, like it says that it is V'hanoira with this additional vav, which is not the case within the Shem Havaya, that is beyond Ishtalshalis, that surrounds all worlds, where it says Vayaminu, but not that it's drawn down to this level of Yireh. And this was all before Matan Torah. But Matan Torah, it says that he instructed to fear. That means that through this, he expressed a revelation of Hashem, a level of Sovev Kol Almin, that it should be from this a level of Yireh. How is that? This is through the Mazel that he sees in the source of Torah, that it is from a level called the Mazel Ilah, like it says in the Medrash Rab, in the Medrash in the Idra, that everything is linked to the Mazel, even the Sefer Torah. Like we mentioned earlier, that Mazel draws down Torah that is before us, and there's two levels here, the Yireh Tata and the Yireh Ilah, like we talked about with that Mazel that sees. Now we can answer a question as to why we do not interrupt our Torah study when someone else can do the mitzvah. We asked earlier, why not? If the Torah study is only the explanation of the mitzvah, isn't the mitzvah itself superior? So why don't we interrupt Torah study unless no one else can do the mitzvah? That since the whole objective of Torah is the instruction that we should fear Hashem, the primary revelation of this Yireh law is through Torah, because without Chachma, that is without Torah learning, you won't have Yireh. However, a mitzvah that cannot be done through another person. We will put aside Torah, because if not, you'll have the issue of, if there's no Yireh, that is the introductory level of Yireh, you want a Chachma. And when we are mevatel a mitzvah, we are throwing away the concept of Yireh. And Yireh law, like it says in Rav Moshe Zukata, that is drawn down from the level of Atik, Yireh, the gematria of Gevura, which is invested in the most intense level of the intellect, from whence we draw down the Mazel, which is the source of the gift of Torah before us that comes from Chachma. And also, like it says in Igeres HaKodesh, that when a person engages in Torah, his character up above is also engaged in Torah. That is, he connects himself with the Mazel level of his neshama that is outside of his physical experience. And this is what draws down the Yireh law. And we can also explain it in a slightly different way, based on what it says, that the source of Avodah and mitzvahs in Talmud Torah is that the neshama itself is higher than Chachma. And Chachma, and certainly every other level, Bina, Das, the Zayin, Midas, and so forth, are only kelim for the essence of the neshama, which is higher than Seichel. And similarly, and even more so, without limit, that the infinite light of Hashem is higher than Chachma. Nevertheless, it rests and it is unified within Chachma. Torah and Chachma comes from Chachma. So it has this connection of Ora and Seif Baruch that is higher than Chachma. And through the hiskashrus of the Seichel in Torah, that as you dedicate yourself to Torah study, that through this you will also have a revelation of godliness that is higher than Chachma, which rests within the Chachma of Torah, that it should be a revelation to a level of the neshama that's higher than Chachma, and the Chachma should be unified with the neshama, to the point that the neshama is higher than Chachma, and therefore, through the engagement in Torah, which is the connection of the Seichel of the person and the Chachma of Hashem, through this we also have the essence of the neshama that is higher than Chachma and Seichel, that it should be subsumed within it in Atzmus, in Yireh and Sovev, that is higher than Chachma Ilah. And that's why we say, if there is not Chachma, there won't be Yireh. And there can't be this revelation in the Mazel, in the essence of the neshama that draws down this highest level of Yireh, unless you will connect yourself with Torah through Seichel, because Havai is in Chachma. And this is also the mashal of the Kriya Shema that we said before for the Nefesh Maskels. However, in order to reach this level and to draw down the Chachma Ilah, the source of Torah, in which it is invested, this infinite light of Hashem, that is unified together with it totally, that should be revealed down here in the engagement of Torah as it is presented in material concepts, the level of Yireh, Charara, Gedola, this great trembling, then we say, if there's no Yireh, there won't be Chachma. That's the introductory level of yirah, which is effectuated or results in the fulfillment of actual mitzvahs, because the mitzvahs are the instructions of Hashem, the king. And when we fulfill the mitzvahs, we are in compliance with the rule of placing the king above us. And this is the yirah that allows us to draw down an even greater level of the Yore insight that is invested within Chachma through the engagement of Torah. This is what we mean when we say, and then we first become sanctified through the mitzvahs, and only then can we have our portion in the Torah. The point being that kachenu means kedushin and eris, like a marriage. Like it says, we are married to you forever through mitzvahs. That just like in marriage, there's first the giving of the ring on the finger of the bride, which is only a legal, a chitzonius connection, and they become unified. And then when they have the penimius connection through the consummation of the marriage, they become unified as one. So to the mitzvahs, even though they are chitzonius and they are only garments of the soul, nevertheless, and through them, this creates the kedushin, this same tassim alecha melech, a level initially at the chitzonius, that we will be sanctified to Hashem, and then we will merit to the time that we will, or the next level, where v'sein chalkeinu b'sed asecha, in your Torah, that is the level where Chachma radiates, in the level of Pnimius, this level of unity. Like it says, Uviyem Chasanasa is the time of Matan Torah, which is like the Chasana Mamash. That's why we say, if a person says, I only have Torah, doesn't even have Torah, because it's impossible to draw down the level of Torah from its original source, which is this quality called Chachma, that it should be personalized without first doing the mitzvahs, which is the introductory level of Yirah, although it is only Chatzonius. And this is what we say, that after we accept Hashem's authority, O Malchus Shamayim, we then can accept his instructions, all mitzvahs. That it's impossible to have a true sustaining of Hashem's authority, O Malchus Shamayim, unless we have the compliance with his instructions, the old mitzvahs. However, all of this is when we follow along in the ordinary path. We first have the introductory level of Yirah, we do the mitzvahs. And if we don't have that, you can't have Chachma. And then if there's no Chachma, there won't be Yirah. That is the drawing down of Chachma in the engagement of Torah, in which we are unified with the infinite light of Hashem, that initially only pours upon us like this mazel, and results in this trembling and fear. Then you have the avodah that shayach after the Torah has been given to the Jewish people. By the time the Torah is given, that the Jews are not yet commanded about mitzvahs. How did they have this drawing down of Torah? They didn't yet have the opportunity to do mitzvahs. How could they then possibly get to the Chachma, this infinite revelation of Ein Sof, if there isn't even the opportunity for mitzvahs? So regarding this, it says, Hashem came down onto Har Sinai. That is, it's the Torah L'Sirusa D'Le'ela. Hashem initiated it. Nevertheless, the Jewish people understood that they can't have this as an ongoing, sustainable practice unless they're going to have mitzvahs. And that's why they first said Nasa and then Nishma, because you can't really have a Nishma, the drawing down of Torah, into a level of Pnimius, unless you first have a Nasa. You have to have the Asayis HaMitzvahs. You have to create the Keli and the Mishkan for Hashem's presence. And this is what our sages say. Who has revealed this secret to you? That this is truly a secret, the level that is hidden, because this revelation through Torah, without the preface of first doing mitzvahs, that they didn't understand what was there hidden all along. However, this power to reveal this in Matan Torah, there should be a gili of the Ratzon Elyon Baruch Hu invested in Chachma, higher than the level of Ashtalshlus, and the level that is affixed within our Avodah through Sfiras HaOmer, the 7 weeks that we count, beginning, of course, from Pesach. The point being, because the objective of Sfiras HaOmer is Sfira, to bring brilliance into it. That is, to draw down godliness into the Omer. Now remember, the word Omer means a dry measure, which was a measure of barley, and barley is an animal food. So the idea of Sfiras HaOmer is to bring down the radiance of Hashem into the animalistic characteristics of our 7 midos, and that they should be radiated and they should be transparent to see that they are godly. Like the 7 midos listed out in Divrei Hayamim, L'cha Hashem Hagedula, and so on, by restraining the expression of the animalistic side of the midos and transforming them. And this is through the drawing down of, quote, hayom yom, like we say in the Sefer, hayom yom, however many days it is of the Omer, which is drawing down the chachma, again, yom suggesting light and brightness, the light that transforms and that little light that pushes away darkness, again, transformation and repression. And this is what it means, that it begins from the harvesting of the raised wheat, that we draw it down, that which is raised up, the midos, which stand up and stand strong and have a certain tenacity about them, that they need to be humbled in this level, that they need to be cut down and transformed into kedusha. Now, all 7 midos are in constant battle of the animal soul with the godly soul. And that one's going to win and one's going to lose. So there needs to be restraint, iskafia, and ishapcha. And this comes from the histalshlus of the chachma from above to below. And it's through chachma that we see that the proper form of chesed, gvura, tiferes, each of the midos should overwhelm and push back against the impulsive character of them. However, after the battle is done, now we have completely defeated the enemies, that is the 7 innate midos, the impulsive animal midos, to smother them and to subdue them. So then we reveal the divine will that's within them, that is higher than even the level of Ashtalshlus, which is Sovev kol Almin. And that's where everything is the same in one. And this level, there is no battle, because everything becomes completely subsumed. The domain of the public becomes the domain of the private. The Rishus HaRabim, which suggests chaos, becomes Rishus HaYachid under the authority of the single one. Like the physical body that is divided up into individual limbs, each one according to its capacity, the power of sight in the eye, etc. Nevertheless, they are all innately unified, and they are all submissive to the ratzon of the person. Similarly, in the revelation of Hashem's ratzon, everything becomes compliant with God's will, without there being any distinction. This is what the pasuk means. You should make the festival of Shuas to Hashem Alekecha, Masas Nidvas Yodcha, according to the gift of your hand that He will give you. Now, it doesn't say the gift of your heart. The gift of the heart would be that which you feel in the heart. And there is a certain sense of, there's me, I exist and I love. It's not a total bit. The revelation of the Ratzon Elyon on Shavuos reveals a Ratzon that's higher than the heart. That the heart is not a keli to sense this Ratzon Elyon, and therefore we say the Nidvas Hayad, the gift of the hand, that gives of its own, as Hashem has blessed him, that is, it is drawn down right through the hand, and there is no individual opinion about it. And therefore it says regarding the 2 showbreads that were brought on Shavuos, that they have to be made of chametz, because we know that chametz is the idea of upliftedness, and that's for on Pesach it's absolutely prohibited, because in that circumstance there is the vulnerability to the chitzonim that they will nourish off of this hisnasis, this self assertiveness. However, on Shavuos, where we have already perfected our midos, we have already come to this greater level that we have subsumed all of our midos into the infinity of Hashem, and the only thing left is kedusha. Like we say, L'cha Hashem Hagdula, all of the midos are only devoted to Hashem, so there's no vulnerability to their power being siphoned off by the Sitra Achra, because of this revelation of godliness. And this is why Torah was given to the Jewish people, so there should be this revelation that is beyond the shtalshlus and thus beyond potentially being misdirected. And it should be manifest down here. This is why, again, our original question, why does the introduction to the Aseres HaDibros begin with Vayidaber Elokim is called Dvarim Ha'ela, Lemar Anech Hashem Lekach. Hashem spoke all of these matters, saying that it should be said, I am Hashem, your God, because the revelation of Anochi, the very essence of Hashem, higher than Ashtalshalis, the level of Havaya Lekecha Mamish, is through Torah. Like we say in the Shema, V'haya Dvarim Ha'ela, these matters should be on your heart. And this revelation, although it's only maybe at the level of the mazel, but the level of my neshama, that's not contained within my humanity. And I have to first preface it with the old mitzvahs, which is alluded to in the second parsha with V'hayim Shemaya about obedience, that without the mitzvahs, there will be no sustainability to the Torah, as we mentioned above.